Here's the big one. We warmed you guys up. UFC 279 on September 10th has its headliner.
Wow.
No title on the line.
Mm-mm.
Simply put, the UFC are sending the hitman in to finish the job. This is Mr. McMahon, and he's got like the big red machine cane with him.
Yeah.
And they're trying to take out Stone Cold Steve Austin. Khamzat Chimaev will be back in action in the main event, 5 rounds. He's the number 3 ranked guy in the division, by the way, and he's taking on Nathan Diaz in what will be the final fight of Nate Diaz's UFC contract. Let that simmer.
Yeah. I still haven't let it simmer. This came out yesterday.
So yeah, this came out yesterday from when we're recording. The group chat had one of its roughest nights, I must say.
Yeah.
There was a lot of terrible takes going on by our friends. It's okay. I love you guys. Not your best showing.
Yeah, that's the fun of it, right?
That is the fun of it, because I love just fucking, they line them up and I'm just knock them down. But anyways, I don't know where to start here, Dom, because there's just so much that we can dig into, both good and bad. Let's start with the positive here.
Okay.
This is a massive fight.
It's huge.
An absolute massive fight. I was a little surprised that it was announced as a main event, but the moment it did and I saw the reaction on Twitter and how Nate was immediately like number 1 trending, I went, oh yeah, they made the right choice. Yep, that's a main event.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love it for Khamzat that he's getting a main event showing.
First one.
It's going to be his first one. You could tell that regardless of Nate's situation, they really want to make Khamzat kind of a huge deal. And honestly, they've done everything right to make him that way. He's got his Fight of the Year contender with Gilbert that really solidified him as a true contender. Before that, he had those squash matches where he's taken out our beloved Reese McKee and John Phillips, among others. And here he goes fighting a legend of the sport in Nate Diaz. It's so many storylines, but this is a positive spin, admittedly.
Yeah.
But we got to start there. We got to start with the positive. It's a huge fight. Undoubtedly going to be probably the highest selling pay-per-view of the year unless they really pull out something for November.
Yeah.
But even if it's Jones Stipe, I think this might outsell it. Even if I don't know what's going to be underneath it.
Yeah.
But I do think regardless, we've seen that even with the casual fans, it's the top of the card that sells, right? So
Yep.
To me, it feels like it might be the biggest main event, the biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Yeah.
Dominic, I want to start there because I gave my kind of positive spin on this situation, and this is kind of a way for us to soften the blow later when we undoubtedly get into some of the more less appealing parts of this matchup. Do you have anything to add in terms of kind of the positive spin, like how you feel? Like you tend to be a little bit more positive leaning on it seems like a lot of things than I do. I'm more of a curmudgeon, I guess. So,
yeah.
Are you feeling it maybe a little bit more positive in certain ways on this fight, or are we ready to kind of dig into the?
I mean, yeah, you kind of said it. I mean, the positives are this is massive, and it is going to be a massive payday for both guys, which is great, all well and good. But really, outside of that is where the water begins to get murky, and you kind of trickle into that deep end of the pool. So, I guess we have to jump off the diving board, Noah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not gonna rant like I thought I was going to. Like I thought I was gonna have one of my classic rants, that everybody seems to love so much, but I don't know if I can.
Well, thank goodness we've talked about this for months, at least, like Nate's whole situation.
Well, I guess that's the other positive, right? What a relief it is that Nate finally has a fight.
Something.
Like it's been over a year.
Yeah.
He's been wanting to fight for months. Finally, it looks like we're gonna get through this, and he can go on his way and do whatever he wants to do after. Hopefully, be happy doing it.
Yeah.
Now, the less appealing parts of this matchup, let's start with the UFC's involvement in this matchup being made. This is where I thought I was going to really rant, and I guess you still can, because let's be honest, the UFC have basically put Nate on ice for a year.
Yeah.
When they shouldn't have. I mean, they really shouldn't have. If the reason was because Khamzat wasn't ready and that's the matchup Nate wanted so badly, well, was he opposed to a Dustin Poirier fight? Was he opposed to a Tony Ferguson fight? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think that the UFC kind of, whether or not Nate really was all on board with this fight, I think the UFC were all on board with it for obvious reasons. Look at the odds right now. Khamzat's like a minus 1,200 on DraftKings. So the UFC know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to lessen the value of one of their bigger stars, but a guy who is not going to be providing that value to them any longer come past September 10th. So it seems they couldn't get him to re-sign. They're giving him a tough fight on the way out. I hate it. I hate that that's such a big part of this story.
Yeah.
It's not the first time that this has happened. There's been a lot of cases, if you go through the history of the UFC, of other promotions, where guys on their way out, they get these tough fights, sometimes buried deep on prelims. Nate Diaz, his first run in the UFC, he was fighting on the prelims, like for his last fight. Andrei Arlovsky, after he had lost the belt as heavyweight champion, his last fight on the prelims. Like, stuff like that, you just kind of know it's the less favorable side of the sport that as much as we want to turn a blind eye to, and maybe sometimes we do, you kind of have to acknowledge it when it's so in your face like this.
Very much so.
Now, I guess that's kind of the UFC's involvement here. I'm not trying to steal all the talking points, Dom. I'll tag you in here in a minute because I'm gonna need a break. But that's sort of where the UFC's involvement has been in this matchmaking. Now, I thought I would rant about that, but then it seems like the way this is being portrayed, even from Nate Diaz's camp, is that he's called for this fight.
Yeah, since April. So,
in that sense, it's hard to be mad at the UFC for giving him the fight, but now I'm not stupid. Dom's not stupid. If I'm not stupid, Dom's especially not stupid. He's a master of thugonomics, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
I'm just a bachelor, we know that this isn't just a sport. Like as much as we love embracing the sport, like and talking about it like a sport, putting the champion against the number one contender, like always doing it that way, having competitive bouts, like good matchmaking, trying to make the best fight the best. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it always goes. And I say unfortunately, but there is a balancing act that MMA plays that other sports don't really have to. You watch a boring game of football, nobody really cares that it's boring necessarily. If you're watching your favorite team, you're so invested in your team doing well that whether or not it's a boring game or not doesn't really
You're like
matter.
Searching for those silver linings,
right.
Still.
So it's like, but then you compare that to like when we've been critical of Israel Adesanya for his fight with Cannonier, it's because we weren't entertained.
Yep.
Even though, if you look at it as a sport, he won a fight pretty handily, added another notch to the win streak, the title defense streak, just solidifying himself even more as one of the best fighters of all time and one of the best fighters today. There's a balancing act because it's a sport, but it's also got theater involved with it. It's almost like a circus. It's like you mix the best parts of a sport and a circus together.
Yeah.
This is like the most circus style matchup you can make because truthfully, this matchup makes zero fucking sense.
No. Nope.
0 sense if you view it as a sport.
Yep.
There is no reason for unranked Nate Diaz, no matter what we think. I think Nate Diaz probably a top 15 welterweight, but it doesn't matter. He's unranked, coming off back-to-back losses to Jorge Masvidal and then Leon Edwards.
Yep.
Which really you could argue that, especially the Leon Edwards one, which
also made no sense.
Made no sense either. Nobody complained about that one. I'll hold my breath on that though.
Yeah.
a different rant for a different time.
Right.
But he once again is being matched up with the number three ranked guy in the division, a guy who is definitely looking at title eliminating fights, looking at number one contender fights, looking at potentially a title fight with the winner of Usman Edwards. Dom, I'm gonna tag you in here. Makes no sense.
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't at all. Well, that's where it comes into play, right? Because again, from the sport, from a competitive standpoint, from the rankings, who's going to fight who, how are we going to get to the title shot, how are we going to clear up this division, determine who belongs where in the top 15, in the top 10, in the top 5, it doesn't make sense. But when you add in what Noah said, the theater, the entertainment value, it checks all those boxes for people, and it's got that casual
trending on Twitter.
Trending on Twitter, guys, not just like in an MMA portion of trending. It was trending like definitely domestically, but it might even have been a global
I don't know
thing.
how trending works exactly, but it was one of the biggest stories.
when Brett Okamoto hit the send button on his tweet, he knew he was about to break the internet, basically.
Yeah.
And that's because Nate Diaz is a super casual, fan-friendly fighter that is going to attract eyes to the sport. And Khamzat is slowly but surely getting
there.
It's a little harder for him, but in a sense, the UFC's really pushed him very quickly, very hard. So he's getting there, and that's why they're putting him with Nate Diaz, because, again, should he beat Nate Diaz like he is, let's be quite frank, supposed to do, he's going to get all those casual fans that can no longer watch a Nate Diaz fight to watch a Khamzat Chimaev fight, a future superstar of the sport, which is what the UFC and Dana White and the boys have seen from him since he took his first step in that octagon. And that's where kind of that old other side that Noah hinted toward comes into play here. So theatrical entertainment makes all the sense in the world. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to bring a lot of eyes to the sport. Competitive MMA-wise, makes absolute zero sense. That's the balancing act.
And I guess in a way, like, we were all clamoring for the Dustin Poirier fight. Does that make
poor Dustin's just sitting at home, by the way.
Yeah, and really, he and that might be a story for another time, but he really is, like, kind of.
He's a big loser of this situation.
He is, and I think the UFC's kind of strung him along a little bit. But that matchup really didn't make, like, a ton of sense from a sport perspective.
Yeah.
If it's at 170, makes a little
bit
sense,
more,
right? Because
sure.
both guys unranked, and it's just a really fun fight.
Exactly.
Not every there's kind of a checks and balances here,
yeah.
But I just don't get me wrong. The fight's going to come, and I'm going to be super excited because it's massive.
Yes.
And as much as I can get annoyed, and Dom, you probably are there with me, with some of the casual takes that we're going to see in the lead up.
Of course.
Is Skip Bayless going to go on there and talk about Nate Diaz having a great sumo-style wrestling?
Yeah,
he might.
Yeah.
But it feels like an inevitable outcome. But when has that ever been the case in MMA, really?
You never know.
That's truly the beauty of the sport. That's the beauty of the theater, the circus act, is that nothing is as predictable as it seems in MMA. One shot changes a fight. So I understand if there's a lot of people who are not happy about this announcement. I'm not thrilled about it. Again, I prefer, for a main event, I would much prefer to see like a title fight, a number 1 versus number 2.
Yeah.
Have Khamzat fight a Colby Covington or something like that here. But, or even, dare I say? Am I going to say it?
I think you're going to say it.
Bilal Muhammad here.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it, Nate Diaz is the much bigger draw. He is the reason most people are going to buy this pay-per-view. And I will be excited just to see all that interest in this fight. Mm-hmm. And that's already been very interesting. Some of my friends who are more on the casual side, I had a couple guys being like, Diaz is a plus 800?
Yeah.
Like being shocked. And I'm like, guys, I know that that's a little crazy. But Khamzat smash.
Yeah. I want to ask you real quick. When you look at this fight, because we know the build-up's going to be It's gonna be crazy. There's nothing the UFC does better than promotion.
Will it be crazy? I guess it could be crazy.
Well, I'm gonna say.
Okay, go ahead.
Because we're business guys, right?
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, how does the UFC even go to spin this fight? I'll be very curious to see how they do it.
Well, they're definitely not going to do the Vince McMahon Stone Cold Steve Austin angle.
Right.
Of course, Dana White filling the role of Vince
Yes.
McMahon in this.
Close friends, those two.
That's true. Very true.
That's interesting.
So it will be interesting to see how do they market it in terms of like the promotional materials, like the hype videos or whatever. It's probably going to be mostly focused on Khamzat is literally the future of the division.
Yeah.
Nate Diaz is the gritty.
The dog.
He's the past, but they're going to show how tough he is, and they're going to show him not giving a fuck, flipping off the bird, all that. It's going to be like gangster versus gangster.
It is. Yeah.
Because Khamzat, that dude's about it.
Oh, he is.
Make no mistake. I feel like I've said that a few times.
The shit he's saying right now is pretty savage.
And let's just think about this, Dom. When the press conference time comes, I know, and yes, I will try to reserve my expectations because Nate, for all the great lines, the Conor McGregor stuff, playing touch butt with that dork in the park.
Yeah.
He's like, some great lines. I don't give a fuck, motherfucker.
He's a man of few words, though, right?
He is someone who doesn't talk trash unless provoked.
Right.
Now, will Khamzat kind of get in his ass a little bit? I don't know. Khamzat is a man of few words himself.
True.
So it's going to be up to kind of the people asking the questions to instigate it. That's really what it comes down to.
That's how it is at every press conference anyways.
Like a gnat flying around me.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see how these two gel when it comes time to kind of promote this fight. Like, what will there be some words? Will it, are they going to ask, is Khamzat going to be like, I smashed this?
He's saying this is going to be Nate Diaz's funeral. For this contract.
So I will be curious to see, like, really how these two kind of promoted in the lead up. The lead up to this fight should be exceptional.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It should be. And I hope that they're going to put a really solid co-main on this, like a Dustin and Dariush, or Dustin Michael Chandler. But
Dustin versus insert name here.
In that way, if someone falls out, maybe we end up getting Dustin and Nate anyway. But I do think that for all the negatives I'm saying, it's very clear we're going to watch this fight, be excited about this fight. It does just hurt a little bit when you kind of understand.
The way that you get here, to this point.
Yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow, but swallow it we will.